I worked in team settings. I worked collaboratively. I've certainly managed undergrads. And I think that's something as a graduate student and post-active that sort of starting to build some of that, because undergrads can be complicated too. And sort of building up that portfolio of experience, that being in leadership positions, whether it's for a professional society or your graduate student organization or managing a team of undergrads, that helps you a little bit. But there is an element where you get to this point and you're like, oh man, I thought I was really well equipped for this, but fortunately, I'm at a university that has a lot of support for supervisors. So next week, I am taking a day-long class on how to delegate better. Because that's the hard, when you go from being the office of one and like you do all the things to letting those things go, and I think you have to kind of succeed in this, you have to be really self-aware. You have to use the resources at your university, and I'm very lucky that we have an executive director who's a fantastic mentor and is available, has made herself available to sort of help me work through some of those really challenging issues and kind of come through alive on the other side and feel confident moving forward. Now on the flip side, 14 to 1.
I mean, the main way I got 14 people was someone above me screwed up. I think that's kind of the most reliable way to get that promotion. But I mean, in terms of sort of how I got there, it really is a slow start of, as a graduate student managing volunteers, managing undergraduates for outreach work, that kind of thing. And then slowly building up. My first sort of non-academic job was at public broadcasting. And there, the management work that I did was with contractors, and if you can prove you do well with contractors, that starts to build evidence. But also managing up, so I mean, having bosses and having supervisors that are smart enough to sort of see when you're managing their work and their expectations, that starts to build your credibility as someone that they can kind of take that. Because eventually someone's just gonna have to take a leap of faith on you. If you're lucky enough to be in a position to take ongoing professional development courses, I think that certainly helps. And then as I knew I was interested in going into a management position, honestly the most valuable investment I made was actually Harvard Business Review and the case studies there. Just a lot of insight and wisdom, and again, I think that helped me learn how to manage up and manage sideways. And then that's really how you start building the trust.
They have an app that has the management tip of the day. That is like a little snippet of things. That's great. That's super helpful.
I'll just say briefly that also, I mean, there's a wealth of expertise in this room about how to work equitably and effectively with students, and then a lot of those same best practices work with whether it's managing students or managing other faculty or managing team members. And so I think that, like my dear colleague Kimberly Tanner wrote this article, Structure Matters, 21 Strategies, and you may have seen that. It's in a CBLSE from many years back, but it's 21 strategies that are like similar you could do like right now if we wanted to like make interactions more equitable. And they're aimed at classrooms, but they work great in departments. So as department chair, like using those same strategies to try to make those discussions more equitable and more productive are super effective. And then I think that a lot of the same things that we try to do in terms of increasing equity in our classroom worked for those things as well, not just 21 strategies. So one of the things that pops to my mind is that like there's this common deficit model of students, right? That so many, you hear so often like, oh, that student just doesn't want to do their work, that student's just lazy. And then what does a manager of faculty say about their faculty? Oh, that faculty just doesn't want to do that class, that faculty's just lazy. And so like there's this perpetual multiple onions peeling back layers of deficit model going on in all of our positions. And so I think that like I try to check myself, I've gotten good with that with students, and I think that as my current area of development now is to make sure that I'm applying that with my colleagues too, that when I see somebody maybe not using best practices or not living up to expectations that I had or something, it's just like really checking, like, wait a second, okay, check my deficit model, what's going on, they probably have good intentions, what can I do to maybe draw out their full effort.
Another question?
Yeah, I have another one. So it seems like in most positions there's a lot of flexibility to pursue projects that you want to do. Is that something that you negotiated when you interviewed and accepted the position, or is that just inherent to these types of positions?
So one thing for, at least again from our one perspective, you can negotiate things to an extent, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily you can say that in the moment, but things fall apart. And so oftentimes we have faculty who say, well, I negotiated X, and it just doesn't happen, and some sort of refuse to acknowledge that. And so you do have to be flexible in terms of what's going to happen in the future. You can't plan for that. Depending on the position, faculty positions in general are incredibly flexible. But I think it does get harder when you get staff positions and things like that, because there are certain day-to-day responsibilities that you have to have. But again, I think that's a conversation that you and whoever is in charge of you or oversees you, as long as the person is reasonable, oftentimes you can get that flexibility built in no matter how many specific things you must do.
So I'm about to offer my first piece of advice. When I was hired, my job was 25% teaching, 75% basically whatever you want to make this position. That's unusual because they had worked with me part-time before. So here's my piece of advice that has worked really well for me. I am very aware of our overall strategic priorities at our university and for our provost. And I do my best to try to align what it is I love to do with those strategic priorities. So I basically have created a position that started out maybe 75% of what I love, 25% and duties as assigned. I would say now it's close to 90-10 because I have become adept at, okay, here's what I really want to do, what's the strategic priority I can align it with, put together my pitch, put my pitch to our director, and it aligns and everybody's happy.
I see a question back there. So this is a question for the whole panel, but especially for Dr. Moody. So I was wondering whether you offer internships for grad students, and if you do, what would the ideal candidate have?
Yeah, so we don't officially have internships. We work and partner with graduate students for sort of more shorter term opportunities. So we have something called gallery carts that are on the museum floor, and so my gallery programs coordinator works with grad students to take a topic from their research or their research area and to co-develop a hands-on activity that is then sort of delivered on, and that they deliver on the museum floor. We do, this summer, we're working in partnership with it's the Heritage Studies program here at the U, where they have in-house funding for internships for graduate students, and Elizabeth, the student who kind of proposed a project and came to us, and she came to us with funding. Because I think the thing that we are incredibly conscious of is that we are not going to bring in students and expect them to do all this work for free. That's not fair or equitable. Interns need to be paid. And we just haven't sort of invested in those resources, but we're excited to partner with other organizations to do that kind of work. And then we find other sort of smaller scale ways, like I said, with the gallery carts. We've partnered with students for sort of our special kind of Discovery Day activities and festivals, the sort of one-off type activities where we can work together. But we don't have a full-blown internship program yet. We're relatively small, so there's 40 people on our staff at the museum. And I'll say that staff has basically tripled since we opened in the new building. So we're in this period of rapid growth and transformation. Stay tuned. Maybe in the coming years, we'll have a more robust internship program for grad students.
I do want to put it out there that I am actively looking for a fellow, so it would be a 1 to 2 year fellowship in the DC area for the upcoming school year. So if you or anyone that you know is interested in doing some of the work that I described earlier, if you want to talk about it during the roundtables, I just wanted to throw that out there.
I'm just going to insert myself again, if you guys are done answering those questions. Just because this one from our survey I thought was really good, and as a follow-up to kind of some of the other questions that have been asked. So this was asked originally to the non-academic panelists, but academic guys, I think you probably can have insight as well. what kinds of things would a hiring manager in your field like to see on a resume or CV? And how can people with entirely academic research backgrounds promote themselves in non-academic settings?
Go on. I just did a bunch of, I heard to say my day yesterday, I interviewed 4 people for positions, so I did phone interviews on that part. So I'm currently interviewing candidates for a youth and family programs manager position. So if you're coming from an academic background and you're applying for a job in a museum setting or an informal science education setting, please do not send a standard academic CV. If I see a CV come through our system that starts with like education and publications, and it doesn't get to experience doing informal science education to like page 9, nope. It's hard for me. I don't have a lot of time. It's hard for me to get there. If I don't see a passion for informal science education or explicitly in the cover letter, why are you applying for a job at this place and why is it like the best thing since sliced bread? Come on. Just telling me about yourself straight up without sort of talking about it is important. In our setting, and particularly for the position that I'm hiring for right now, I need to see evidence of incorporating sort of scientific research or the process of science or working with scientists and a comfort level with that in the application. So I see a lot of candidates that come from a recreation background or an environmental education background, but at the museum we want to be the gateway to science at the University of Minnesota, and so that means that we partner with researchers, we partner with